It starts before you know why. A tightness under the ribs. The mind running ahead to a meeting that has not happened. A diagnosis that has not been given. A phone call that has not come. You are safe, right now, in this room. And some part of you is already living in a version of today that has not arrived and may never arrive. Almost 2,000 years ago, a man born into slavery, who spent much of his life with a permanently damaged leg, wrote a short handbook on exactly this problem. Not a cure for pain, a cure for a very specific kind of suffering, the kind we manufacture ourselves, out of things that were never ours to control in the first place. This is about the first rule of that handbook, and how it can sit underneath an anxious morning like a floor. Here is the opening of the Enchiridion, Epictetus's handbook, in the public domain translation of Elizabeth Carter. Read it slowly. It is the whole book in miniature. Some things are in our control, and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions. The things in our control are by nature free, unrestrained, unhindered, but those not in our control are weak, slavish, restrained, belonging to others. Notice the shape of the claim. Epictetus is not saying the world is safe, or that bad things will not happen to you. Property can be lost. Reputation can be ruined. The body, his own body, broken by a master who is said to have twisted his leg until it snapped, can be damaged beyond repair. He is saying something narrower, and, if you sit with it, stranger, that none of those things are, strictly speaking, yours to run. What is yours, the one territory you actually govern, is your opinion. Your reaching toward things and away from things, where you place your judgment. A slave, teaching an empire that would one day include an emperor among its students, that freedom was never about your circumstances. It was about which room in the house you decided to live in. So what does this have to do with the tightness under your ribs? Almost everything. Anxiety, most of the time, is not fear of a thing. It is fear of an outcome you cannot control, played on a loop as though replaying it enough times might let you steer it. The meeting's result. The test's result. What the other person thinks of you, has decided about you, will say about you next. All of it, the outcome, the verdict, the other mind, sits on Epictetus's side of the line marked not in our control. And here is the turn, the part people skip because it sounds too simple to be load-bearing. If the outcome is not yours, then the anxious rehearsal of it was never protecting you. It only felt like work. It was your attention, spent guarding a door that was never yours to guard, while the door you do own, how you show up, what you choose to say, whether you prepare with care, sat unattended. He gives the mechanism its own separate line, later in the same handbook. Men are disturbed, he writes, not by things, but by the opinions they form about things. Men are disturbed, not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things. Death, for instance, is not terrible, else it would have appeared so to Socrates. But the terror consists in our notion of death, that it is terrible. That is not a claim that nothing is ever actually dangerous. It is a claim about where the suffering is manufactured. The meeting itself cannot hurt you before it happens. It does not exist yet. What hurts you, right now, at 11 at night, staring at the ceiling, is the story your mind is telling about the meeting. And a story is the one thing in the room that is, in fact, yours. This is easy to hear as coldness. Stop feeling. Just think differently. It is not that. Epictetus is not asking you to feel nothing. He is asking you to notice, in the moment the dread arrives, that the dread is riding on a judgment, and the judgment can be examined. Is this thing actually in my control? Then act and stop rehearsing. Is it not? Then, in his own blunt phrase, it is nothing to you, not because it does not matter, but because your fear cannot move it 1 inch. This is where the rule gets misused. Taken as a slogan, "Some things are not in our control," becomes an excuse for passivity. Why prepare for the meeting at all, if the outcome isn't mine? But read the passage again, and the opposite is true. Epictetus splits the world in two precisely so you can stop wasting effort on the half you cannot move and spend all of it on the half you can. Preparing well is entirely in your control. Caring for how you speak, how you listen, whether you did the honest work. All of it is yours, right up until the moment you hand the outcome to the world. The line is not drawn to make you give up. It is drawn so you know exactly where to push. So here is the practice, small enough to use tonight. When the anxious loop starts, the meeting, the test, the phone call, stop and ask one plain question. Is the thing I am afraid of actually in my control? If the answer is yes, your preparation, your words, your effort, then go do that one small thing now and let the rehearsal stop, because the rehearsing was never the doing. If the answer is no, their decision, their opinion, the result, then say the old line to yourself plainly. This is not mine to carry. Not because you don't care, because carrying it changes nothing except your night. Sort the fear into one of 2 piles. Act on the first. Set the second down. Epictetus never promised the meeting would go well. He never promised the diagnosis would be good news, or that the phone call would bring the answer you wanted. He had a shattered leg his whole life, and never once wrote that the world owed him better. What he offered instead was smaller and, it turns out, sturdier. A floor to stand on, while the outcome is still unknown. Sort what is yours from what is not. Do the first with your whole attention. Set the second down, all the way down, because it was never in your hands to begin with. The tightness under the ribs will come again tomorrow. But you will know, this time, which half of it is actually yours. I'm glad you sat with this one. If it was worth your quiet, stay a while. There is one idea here every day.